truly the best time of the year. But at the same time, this is the saddest part of the year. But yeah, the AF1 playoffs started this past weekend. Unfortunately for the Kentucky Barrels, or whatever's left of the Kentucky Barrels, they just got blasted by the Michigan Arsenal in the second half. And Minnesota was able to overcome Washington, and thus the two semifinals will be Minnesota and Albany, Michigan and Nashville. Both of these should be fun. I think the Michigan Nashville game will be the better of the two games by far. But Nashville, is looking like the team that can't be beat right now. Albany's still kind of reeling a little bit. But both these teams have had the week off to kind of, get things in perspective. Meanwhile, over in the IFL, my goodness, we have 4 playoff games that are going to be thrilling. Well, at least 3 of them. I don't really know about Tucson, and everything like that, because they just played San Diego this past weekend and didn't get the win in a close game. But I mean, Tucson is in the playoffs as the 4 seed, but they were going to be the 4 seed by default, because San Antonio is going through some stuff right now. There's been stuff lurking around about Bane and Smoking Guns podcast is ending, and then it's just like, man, what's going on down there in San Antonio, Texas? And then the 2-3 game in the West, oh my God, Vegas and Arizona, man, that should be it. All these games are going to be on Yahoo, by the way. No overnight for the playoffs. It's all Yahoo, and I'm just excited. I'm excited. Orlando got the 4 seed. They beat Fishers in a thrilling ending, 67-63, to take that 4 seed, and they'll take on Green Bay, And it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Like, my goodness. And then the 2-3 matchup is going to be the Jacksonville Sharks and the Tulsa Oilers. Jacksonville advertised playoff tickets way beforehand, and, they were able to get what they needed to get the 2 seed. So this should be really, really fun. Remember, the IFL National Championship is in Tucson on August the 16th. So, there's that. I'm hoping one of those 3 teams out west takes on Green Bay. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I want to happen. And then last but certainly not least, what is this championship bracket from the IAL? What is this? What is this nonsense? We have a double elimination bracket, which I don't think I've seen something like this since 2019 Premier Lacrosse League, their very first season. I don't think I've seen something like this since that time, and I made a note of that. Again, we have Cincinnati and Utah as the 1 and 2 seeds. Arizona will take on the European Stars. Pennsylvania will take on Vegas in the other first round matchup, and then we'll go on to the, we'll go to the next matchups. The two teams in the first set of games, they'll be eliminated with a loss. So if somebody, if Europe happens to win, then I mean, shoot, that'll be interesting, because that means that the 2 teams in that first round matchup will be eliminated. And again, there's a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket, and it just goes all the way until August the 29th for some reason. Like, what are we doing here? I did not want to have to, be talking about the IAL, this long, I don't think anybody wants to talk about the IAL this long, but, like, at the same time, we gotta come to an agreement to disagree at the same time, But yeah, the IAL Championship will be the August the 29th. It'll be the final game of the Arena Indoor Football season, which means August the 16th won't be the finale after all of this weekend in the football. But, I'm probably going to make it the finale anyway. I'm going to talk about the IAL Championship in a separate, short or whatever. But, yeah. All right, on an unrelated note, Doc Montero's in some legal trouble again. There's all sorts of stuff about Wyoming that's been coming out. which is the same stuff that has just been kind of circulating. Like, if you're having crack pipes and unpaid rent, it's like, what are we doing here? That's the first thing. What are we doing here? And the cops apparently are like, oh, we found some stuff, but at the same time, we haven't found some stuff. Wheeling's also, there's also been some stuff going on about wheeling, which I didn't expect like that. Like, players are apparently haven't been paid there either. Some, maybe not all of them, but that's some of the news that we got, across our desk last night. As I was scouring for what's available. Montgomery's announced their head coach, and he's a pretty interesting coach. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, Julius Gregory, that's his name. Julius Gregory. He was with the Predators, and he's been a former arena player. He's been on and off the field for like the last decade, and should be an interesting hire for Montgomery. Montgomery's doing things the right way, but there's more to it to that. Again, like I said, wheeling. I think a couple players have said something now. I just saw something from another player that said that they haven't been paid. So of course we all know my stance on this is the same as always. Please play your players. You should not be holding equipment as collateral, but pay your players. From what I've heard, I haven't. I don't live in Wheeling, West Virginia. I live in Texas, so But again, go to the merch store, BigBoySportsPrintify.me. You can buy mugs over there. There's mugs over there. You can buy mugs in 11 ounces, 15 ounces, and you can buy shirts that are either small, for the little ones, all the way to 4XL for you big boys and girls out there. Again, shirts are what, $12? No wait, shirts are $26. Mugs are $12. So if you want that, please go ahead and support the channel that way. Definitely, getting some other avenues to help the channel continue to grow. And I think for right now we're gonna wrap things up for this weekend in football for the time being. We'll come back after the TAL playoffs, which I forgot to say something about. Hold on, let me go say something about the TAL playoffs real quick. All right, and last but not least, I almost forgot about the Arena League. I wasn't going to forget nothing this week. So we have the TAL semifinals coming up this next week as well. St. Joe's will take on Nebraska. Nebraska beat the brakes off the Woo, to get to the point that they're at. St. Joe's, of course, is, doing what they can. Memphis lost. Monroe also lost, but, because Memphis was 3-5, Monroe 4-4, it kind of worked out. So Monroe gets Arkansas yet again, because it'll be the second straight week these two teams face off. So the North Division, I still think we're going a Nebraska-Arkansas championship. Look, a Nebraska-Arkansas championship will feed families. Two of the teams that have, the best PR, best social media game, and some of the best players out there. St. Joe's is looking really good too, though. And I think, these two matchups are going to set the stones, for the TAL championship, which will probably be the week after this. So maybe things aren't gonna just be quite settled unless they're settled, but they are gonna be settled. Things are going to be settled between these four teams, and somebody is going to the TAL championship. I don't know who yet. Like I said, I think it's going to be Nebraska, Arkansas in the TAL championship. That's what I think. If that doesn't happen, I'm happy to go with St. Joe's, Arkansas, as my second backup pick, but I'm definitely leaning towards Nebraska, Arkansas. Nebraska, Arkansas should be the TAL championship, and if it's not, then it is what it is. And that's what this is all about, So, for real this time, I'll see y'all, probably next week. I think there's enough material to go ahead and say that we'll do something next week. I thought I was gonna be like, nah, but we are gonna do something next week. We're gonna do some This Weekend in Football next week. So that's what I'm thinking. Again, like, share, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell, buy the merch, do what you need to do to help keep this channel running and rolling. So, again, I'll see you all, over the course of the next week. Continue to watch, continue to make this show stay, because I'm also thinking about some things about This Weekend in Football as well. So, that'll do it. I'm out.